Now, the next topic in our agenda and the final topic is building context on production scale when you have XX users and YY use cases. And Bala sir will be taking this. So take the stage, please.
Okay. So yeah, I'm not gonna spend much time on this. This is a quick high-level architecture of what we be doing. Yeah, one of those architectures. It's a little interesting. That's the reason I just want to talk about this one. Let's say, I mean, all of the use cases that we've been talking about, so far, in about creating a RAG and creating custom agents, and probably, creating something in personalized and all of these things. How about, just making, a slightly different use case where customer wants to keep this as their personal agent. One of those use cases was, since the RAG has been already been discussed, I'm going to talk about on the SQL related stuff. So there's a bunch of models have been released in terms of I have a RAG, or probably I want to do some function calling, I want to do anything, and there are pretty niche releases in terms of how can you really have a conversation with your databases. So that's where kind of little architecture that we're seeing right now. It actually handles a bunch of things. This includes the deployment. This includes, how do we handle the production related issues when you have, TPM issues, when you have latency issues, how do you handle all of these things, in a high level stuff. So, yeah, initially we are gonna, address all of these latency issues by the region itself. We're gonna switch the calls based on the specific region. That actually gives us a lot more flexibility in terms of once you have the multiple models deployed across multiple regions, because it's always the token per use. Don't have to really pay an additional thing once you have the models already being hosted across the regions and you utilize that. You're simply going to utilize the maximum TPM in that case. After that, we have a bunch of things. We have microservice, and the basic challenge of all of these things. Once you actually trying to have a question from your entire database is okay. So you might ask, how is my business, growing in the last 6 months? What do you think are going to be the top demanding products in the next 2 months? And all of these are interesting questions, but to answer these questions, what is more important is the context for the users. You really need to understand what is this specific user is all about. What is he referring to? So if I ask a question, it should be answered completely based on my business, based on my data set, based on my specific set of things which are actually make sense. Example, if some of these customers like probably Flipkart asks like what am I demanding products in the next 3 months, and if they specify a specific region, it needs to understand first dissect everything on a specific region for the Flipkart. What are the products which have been trending for the same season across the periods, and what is an average, and how can we predict that in the next few months and everything. This is all more about in terms of getting the right set of data, since yeah, RAG is slightly different where we have a database, and you just make it chunking, and you just use it custom agents and all of these things. You can do a lot of stuff, and you can finally get that onto the production based on specific setware. But however, this is in a more personalized thing. So if you are asking a question, it is directly point out to your specific usage, your metrics, your a point of the things that matters to you, your business, and everything. Yeah, so we had multiple roller coaster rides over this as well, because I think so far the only except the Amazon has launched Amazon Q. for this, but yeah, that's not going to going forward. And Power BI has also developed something similar towards this, and Tableau has Einstein, as a product which has been, kind of in the beta modes. All of these in the beta modes and never hit the production. Yeah, so some of these have been reverted as well because the accuracy is was a big challenge. And Google also has developed something like, Google, big data, genAI assistant, and so on and so forth, but it was not to the mark. So the reason why, once you have the real set of data, once you have the real set of users and real set of requirements are actually there. So, uh, but it's still not flying. The reason that we just see is the first thing is how do you handle the latency issue. So see, if you have a question, probably you can ask your data analyst. I'm the CEO of this company. I can ask 10 questions to my data analyst and I can just go away. So he's going to come back and give me all the analysis and everything because he's the one who's been interacting with the data on a day-to-day basis. He know what is my version of the questions that I wanted, and he can do all of these things. But however, in case if you ask the same question to a chatbot, and if you ask him to wait for in a couple of minutes, it's going to be insane, and people would not turn back. So that's an issue in terms of latency on the production. There are multiple ways that we can kind of solve it. But yeah, it's like 90% solved, and the remaining 10% is still an issue. Yeah. So, but basic reason why all of these threads which have been deployed and got to the beta but did not fly completely was the basic reason is you might ask a question completely with your own perspective. That is, your perspective is your business. So once you have your business data, once you can understand the business data that you actually want, and then if you can tune the responses according to that, that is when it's going to be really interesting. Yeah, so it is like you having your own personal assistant where you really don't have to just explain everything. So one big challenge in terms of across all the LLM related products is what we have seen is the moment we ask the users to write something, they literally don't write it in exactly in the full form, or they cannot put everything, the thoughts and everything they have it in the text. So that was a big challenge, which initially, probably 5 years ago, we never expected that. But yes, now, right now, with the with the extension of GenAI products, agents to the level it's being matured, and all of these things, this makes much complicated where you really don't just take the words that is being written because it does not give you the 100% picture. You understand and make these products personalized. So yeah, that's when we done a lot of things to understand, first understand the specific things about the user and their business and their metrics, what makes sense, what not, and this covers almost like top high level things like what if something it fails, how do you retry, how do you come back, how do you recreate the query, how do you recreate the responses, how do you understand that this is what the data needs to be fetched in. Yeah, bunch of things. Just on a high level, this gives you. Yep. Yeah, and this not just that. This also covers in terms of your security, your LLM related security, all of these things because we host all of our things mostly on our own servers. Um, yeah, in terms of security, also it's slightly slightly better, but yeah, the challenges that we still have is in terms of okay, this all of these things are fine, but to get one single response, if we built multiple racks almost in the first 6 months to 1 year itself. We built multiple racks and we deployed it. So racks were completely being used by multiple users across multiple ways, and people use the custom racks and custom agents that we built it. We have these customization. We use LangChain initially. We used LangChain Smith and LangChain Maps and all of these things we've used, and As Sandeep was rightly pointing out, these are highly dynamic in nature. To keep it in up, it's not weekly, it's actually daily updates is what we've been seeing it. So we spend a lot of time, and right now we created our own framework. Yeah, which is inspired by multiple other frameworks, but we have our own framework. Completely from the scratch we developed it. So now that is how we kind of making it consistent in terms of code, and also there are a bunch of things that we just trying to import only specific modules which are necessary for the frameworks to reach the next levels. Yep. As I said, the challenges is still the first thing is accuracy, because once you respond, you need to respond with topmost accuracy, because you're not giving some jazz. You're giving some valuable data that makes sense for the users to take right decisions using this product. Okay, that is the pretty most important thing, accuracy. And the second reason is what I've been talking about is the latency reason. So, as I said, you'll have to really choose between. Primary thing is you have to go with genAI, you have to go with probably Claude, you have to go with probably custom or Mistral. So probably whatever it is, the first choice is has to be based on the LLM. That is when, for your specific use case, what LLM that you choose it. That really makes sense. Now the second, that's the reason why we keep that in choice of LLM is first primary most thing. Now the second is for the latency, we choose which level is important. So it's not necessary that you use Cloud Opus all the time. So for RAG, literally it doesn't make any sense you use an Opus. I mean, at least for our use cases is what I'm trying to say, because it's absolutely insane cost, and also insane in terms of latency as well. So text, RAG, and these custom agents, the basic GPD 3.5 versions and all of these things are much capable than just using the entire universal, the most sophisticated system. That's the reason why we first choose an LLMs, and then we choose what level of LLM that we want it. So let's say if we just go to Claude, we choose, do we have to go with Opus? When do we have to? Can we really stick to the instant, which is the basic version of it? Because if we actually look at these things, the nature of the responses are similar. However, it actually implies in terms of what level of complexity do you really deal with. So do you have the text which is highly complicated, written in terms of documentation, which can be compromised, and just doesn't make any sense to have a cloud completely onto it. Just use ChatGPT, or probably just use Claude, any one of these things. And sorry, Llama, in some of these cases, Claude doesn't make any sense. So that's how it is. We as others were also talking about it. So to increase the accuracy, cache we've been implemented. We've done the correction, multiple levels. We've done with multiple layers, multiple regions, multiple LLMs. Bunch of things that we have done. So with you know with a lot of experience on it, what we have done is we spent several weeks, and we designed our own framework. That's the major differentiation that I can just say about it. But yeah, however, the hosting platforms and everything, the challenges are exactly like the same with others. We just did a little extra in terms of splitting that based on the regions and choosing the level of LLMs that you wanted. You really don't have to just choose the top one for all the use cases that you wanted. Yep, that's about it.
Thank you, sir. That was great. I think we have a question from Jack. Is there a demo that you can show for your use case or any GitHub repo of your framework you would recommend for building slash using these AWS services you mentioned?
Okay, is there a demo that you can show the use case of the GitHub? We it's a kind of proprietary ones. We do not have it hosted on the GitHub. We are probably trying to optimize that slightly and keep it to the GitHub, but that's going to be a little far. But another one, what we can actually so there is a demo. I think probably in a moment or so I can just show you some kind of demo, but that's not on the GitHub repo. Uh, yeah, but so this is another one where yep, you can actually have a similar demo. That's I think one of you have been using this. Yeah, this when we actually try and explore multiple places, this is a similar place where you can actually.
Bala, we are
Yeah.
still seeing the diagram.
Okay. Okay.
You will have to reshare, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Just a minute.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, if you can see the screen, so I can't share the proprietary ones as of now. We were trying to make some changes and get it released on the GitHub probably in a while, but that's a little more complex and more towards our own architecture and everything. But something similar is what you can find out, but a little in a little basic versions of it, on the Vena AI where you can use your documentation, you can use your databases, you can use your query languages, you can do all of these things and make it more personalized. If that's what when I actually talks about it, the personalized AI, it's a SQL agent right now, but what we built is an agent. It's a personalized AI agent that talks about, that can handle API calls, that can handle the RAG, that can handle a lot of other a lot of other use cases. Yeah, similar stuff is what you can do it, but this is more towards the SQL stuff. But what we have done is, more more in terms of more generic, not just specific to this, but more specific towards our own data structures and everything. Right? That answers the question. I think can't seem
As
to
you
see the
said,
question.
we have a follow-up from Jack. So he's asking if we can connect Vana AI with and Redshift.
I think yes. Vena supports multiple things. But yeah, this is not what we have used. We've used everything from the scratch. But yes, I think from Vana also you're supposed to, by default it gives you flexibility to connect to the Redshift, but you will have to I mean it does not by default, but you'll have to slightly change the code and just make it connect to. You can literally connect to any databases. It doesn't make so it's Python, as simple as it's Python, so you can connect to any ODBCs. Yeah, there's no restriction. Slightly modify the code and you are ready to fly. And it's all the same thing. So first, connecting to the data source and just getting the LLM response for the first guess, and yeah, and just do all the things that you wanted. But here, for the specific use cases we actually see, you need a lot more to make it more personalized. You need to understand what that business talks about. If I just say TSM sales, I don't know what is TSM sales unless until you provide that specific information already preceded, saying that, okay, the moment I ask for TSM sales, it means probably some XYZ. These are the basic business terminologies that needs to be cooked up. That's what is part of the documentation. And also, most LLMs does not give you the proper sequels or probably relevant API actions and everything unless you provide them with the golden set of things like, okay, so these are the basic strictures that I can get it from the LLMs, but how can I fine tune, not in terms of the, LLM fine tune, so how can I tune the responses for my own use case? That's when you can have another set of RAG on the top of it. So one for the documentation, one for how do you tune the sequels, how do you get the data of that is the SQL, you have to provide those sort of things. If that is function calling or probably calling in APIs, yeah. So all of these things are far. This is not core in terms of hosting challenges, but this is more in terms of adaptability. So yeah, I mean, I would say, I mean, Siddharth and people also been working on a lot on multiple hosting services. They are. I would say we can kind of rely on these services in the initially. Once you really see that yes, there is a big challenge in terms of there is a lot of token usage and everything, you can use these platforms and you can use the caching and to get the costing to almost like an 80% cut off it. Recently, the cloud has also been introduced uh, you know uh, ah, prompt caching. I think some of you are aware of it. So the moment you start integrating that, it's just like I mean, right away you're saving almost like 80% of your anti tokens. And not just that, the latency is almost reduced to 50% or 60%. So there are a lot of things getting evolved, but what you need is to have a right framework. So you have these deployment platforms, so sophisticated, platforms are being built. But what you really need to focus on is once you utilize these platforms and make sure that you have your own framework, which is kind of the best edge. It doesn't have to be edge actually. It has to be right personalized for your specific set of use cases. So we also tried with something like in custom agents, but the challenge what we've seen is users do not know what they actually needs to build. If those are highly techy users, I would say, but for most generic users, if you just provide them an open platform and you ask them to write a single question, they fail to write the single question. If you ask them to customize the agents, they are far away. So yeah, they do something, but ultimately what you want is the stickiness, which is you need to have the user consistently use your services. So for that, we need to put our heart and soul in it and try to understand what that user is really wants before he actually asks the question. If you prompt out these things and just saying, hey, this is what's being changed, like Sid was showing me that these are the incidents that can it been happening before the user even comes to it and says that we just gonna put up and says that, these are the incidents it's been happening, and I think that these are the possible reasons. You probably have to go and just figure it out. These are all what actually makes sense for every single for every single users in terms of you being proactive. Instead of they come here, they think through and answer, write the questions which might not translate exactly with their perception.